recording. All right. So after you log in, you should be able to see a table view full of messages sent by other users, such as memo, the other memo, and the new memo. But you guys will be implementing your own group chat. And this is how the layout works. So there's a input text field here where you can put the message. And as soon as you click the send button, you should send a message to the server, and your view controller should reload every 1 second so that it's constantly being updated. Obviously, this is not how you would do in a professional environment. In the professional, you would do a notification sender that talks to the server. So, hey, I got a new message for you. Okay, download it. But for the sake of and the purpose of making it easy, we're going to have our table view refresh every 1 second so that it can just reload the messages and stay up to date. And you're going to also implement the logout functionality. So that's pretty much it. Seems simple, right? So let's get started into the actual project that you will be working on. Let me just have that over here. Awesome. Delete this. And let me open up the project. Alright, can you guys see this? This is readable? Alright, awesome. So let's start with the first steps. So we need to tell our program to start Parse. What is the very first thing whenever you do it to a computer? You turn it on, right? What does a computer do when it turns on? It reads all of the information regarding its components, such as the RAM, the storage space, and the graphics or the CPU stuff, all of that, right? So same thing with here. Once we launch our system, our app, we have to load some aspects of our app. In this case, we need to implement Parse in it. So to do that, you're going to your app delegate. Oops. I'll have this be on the storyboard. And go to your app delegate, which is at the very top of your folder. And I've listed out, if you get lost, just look at the comments that I put out for you, the to-dos. And this is where you're going to be implementing your code. Are you recording?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, perfect. Just wondering. Sorry, guys. And so first thing first, we need to implement Parse, right? So I already did the first step for you guys. You import Parse. And now we need to initialize the Parse connection. So let's go ahead and write some code that initializes Parse. So all you have to do is call Parse. Whoops. Here it is. Parse. And you call the function called initialize right here. And you select the third option, which is with Parse client configuration. This is why, because we're loading the server that CodePath is using. So they already created the server. We're just going to be calling Parse using their settings that they've already done for us, so that we don't have to do everything from scratch. That's what you guys are going to do in Instagram. So after you call this function, this variable Parse client configuration, you're going to put another parentheses inside it and call it block. And in there, you're going to have another bracket, and you're going to have a closure, which is basically a function as a parameter. And in that function, you're going to have a configuration. Oops. And now you're going to call the parse mutable. It's going to be parse mutable client configuration. There you go. And this is how you declare a closure. So in other words, this is similar to using Python's lambda function. So we're passing the variable configuration into our function as a parameter. And now we just have to initialize the configuration. We need to get the ID of the server, and as well as the address. So we're going to call configuration dot application ID equals to CodePath parse. Perfect. And your next step is going to be configuration.server equal to, I'll just copy and paste it, it's too long. It's a web address, so type that out. Hopefully it works. HTTP 45.79.67.127:137 parse. Cool. So after you guys have that, it should be giving us a valid, parse variable configuration. I had to type that up. So make sure that it's typed. You know how it's highlighted? It was highlighted. You got to make sure that it's actually typed in. And now, why is it giving me an error? It has no accessible initializers. What do you mean? Configuration. How is this giving me an error? It has no accessible initializers. Let me type this up over here. Oh yeah, you're right. Thank you for catching that. Make sure it's parse client configuration. There you go. So now we're gonna have, this is how we're telling our application to connect to the server called CodePath Parse, and it's located under this server address. So that's how you initialize it. So what would be the next step now? Now that we have our parse initialized, now let's go ahead and implement the login functionality. So go back into your storyboard, and you're going to notice that we have a login view controller. So we want to implement the functionality that gets the username and the password, and after you click on the login button, it should call the parse and tell it to log in that user. Or if we click on the sign up, it should sign up a user. So actually, let's sign up a user instead. So go into your view controller, and if you go onto your storyboard, you'll notice that this is called the login view controller. So you can find it here under the controller folders. And what the heck? It already has some code in it. Wow, I sent you guys already everything in it. You know what? Delete all this. Don't look at that. I want you guys to know what's going on. So you guys know what's happening in every step. So I have the first function, which is a sign up button, and then the on login function. Let's implement first the on sign up. So this is what you're going to need for your on sign up button. First, we got to check that we don't give the server invalid inputs. So in other words, blank text. So for that, I already did that for you guys. I created a function that checks that the text fields are not empty. So all you have to do is just implement this function first. So in order to call it, you would do a simple if statement saying if username and password not empty. There you go. That's the function that I created for you guys. So if those text fields are not empty, now we're going to do all the heavy-duty parse work into our code. We're going to first create a user object for parse. And to call it, it's going to be a pf user. So here we're initializing a pf user object. Pf is basically parse. So it's a part of Parse's library attributes. And now that we have our object, every new user needs at least two things, a username and a password. So first we need to retrieve the username and the password from the text fields. So in order to do that, I'm going to call the new user dot username equal to username text field dot text. So here we're setting the object TF user, and after we initialize it, now we have to give it the username. So what's the username of this new user that we just created? Well, it's going to be the username text field dot text. Now we're going to do the same thing for the password. New user dot password equals username password text field dot text. So after we set the user properties, now we need to create the user. So we're going to have to implement a method from Parse that will call the server and create our new user and save it within the server. So to do that, you're going to call your new user dot sign up in background, and inside it you're going to create it's going to be another function within as a parameter, and it's going to have success bool, or it could return an error as an error oh, I forgot this is supposed to be a curly bracket, my bad. There we go. So it should look let me just do it again. It's going to be a curly bracket, and then you're going to have success bool, or the error, and there we go. Now we're going to implement the functionality within. So if we have so we're working with a closure. So what we want to tell our app is, if we get a success, then okay, just print out something like, oh, it was saved, or take you to the view controller, right, the home feed. Or if there was an error, then print out an error. So in order to do that, we're going to do our own if statement. If let error equal error, then we're going to print the error, and then self display sign up error. Whoops. Self dot display sign up error. So the only thing that I implemented for you guys was this display sign up error. So it's a function all the way down here, and all it does is that it blurs your background and it shows you an alert. Like when you do something on your phone and you click on save contact, it'll pop up a little window that says success or alert. So that's what we're doing. We're just passing the error as a parameter. And now we're going to do the same for if it succeeded. Then we're going to print that we successfully created the user, just to let us know that we were able to create it. And we're going to do the user new user dot username was created, was registered. So this is just a new message to me to let know that I was able to create a user. And then we're going to perform the segue with identifier, and then it's going to be segues dot authenticated. So I know this, if you guys recall from what you've been working on, this is supposed to be a string. So all I did is that I created a helper files with constants, and this is basically segue authenticated is a string. It's literally just a string that says authenticated. But when you do professional coding, you want to store strings as constants so that you can avoid spelling mistakes. Because when you create a string, it will never tell you if you have it will never autocomplete it. And besides that, it won't tell you if there's a spelling mistake because it's a string. Swift doesn't care about strings. So we're going to do everything in constants. But just to let you know, heads up, if you're confused about what is this, it's just a string. So now, what is it doing? So if we create a new user, it's going to take us to the next view controller, right? Well, let's try it out. Let's see if it works. Actually, I think it'll give us an error because we still have to do the table view. But let's see what happens. Oops. There you go. Let's see if this builds at least. Yeah, we still have to construct our messages. Well, before that, let's construct our login functionality. Let's say that we already have a user. Well, lucky for you, guess what? This is mostly going to be the same exact code, right? So the only difference is going to be this function, the sign up. Instead of sign up, it's going to be login. So let's do that. I'm going to teach you how to be efficient in your coding. You guys want to know with a trick? You highlight everything, you copy it, and then you paste it. Nice, right? Because we're doing essentially the same thing. But now, instead of creating a sign up, we're going to be doing a login. So all you have to do is look at this function right here, this method, and change it to login. Login with username. Cool. And the rest should be the same. New user login. Oh, make sure that instead of new user, since we're not creating a user, make sure to take out the new user, and this will be PF user. Why? Because we don't need to create a new user object. That user already exists in the server if we're logging in, right? So what we're doing is we're calling whatever user that exists there and log in with that username. And then you just, instead of new user.username, you're going to change to let constants. Let username and let password, and then this should, after you build it, it should get rid of that error. No? Log in. Oh, so in here we're going to change the, yeah, actually you're going to have to do a couple things here. Let me go ahead and delete all this. And what you're going to do is you're going to call this function pfuser.login with username. It should be I think it's the third one. Yeah, the third option. Login with username and background. And then for the string, it's going to be the user, the username. And the password, it's going to be the password that you need. And then inside here, you're going to create another curly bracket because we're going to have a closure. And it should be user, which is a PF user. And the error. And after you type this, make sure you type the in to tell it that it's a closure. Do you guys have this so far? So what we got to do with this now is, so essentially what is this function doing? It's logging in the user, and it's going to return two things. It can either return a user, so that's why we put the question mark to signify that it's an optional, because we don't know if that user actually exists or it doesn't. And we have an error, which is also an optional, because we don't know if we're going to get an error. So after we set up those things, now we do the same as above. If let error equal error. If we get an error, then print login failed. And let's give it the error message that we want. Error.localize description. And then we're going to display that error. Display login error with the parameter error being error. else, if there was no error returned, then print logged in successfully. And we're going to perform the segue with identifier. Same thing, segues dot authenticated. And for the center, we're going to do nil. Whoops. Which part? Which line? Thank you. I'm getting an error here. They're not called non-function type string. Oh, there we go. Lol. And volume optional. Is it because I don't? Where did I? Oh, it's because I missed the count of the brackets. It's going to be for this one. This one's for that one. Yeah, this one should be for this one. Okay. No. Portion wrap. Portion wrap what? Oh, the username and password? Oh, yeah. Don't forget to force and wrap these. My bad. Because if you're doing a let, then you have to give it a text for sure. And it's okay, because we already have a function that checks if the inputs are empty or not. Question?
So when you say there's an error, does that mean the intros are wrong, or there's just an error in a single parse?
That will return you either or. So if there was an error with the, that's why you have an error as a parameter, because parse will return you an error, which can be either wrong credentials or a problem with the network connection. Maybe there's no internet. But parse will do that for you. All it knows is that you're telling your app to give you an error back, and parse will give you that specific error. And why is it still giving me an error here? Oh, it goes before. There we go. Probably not. Okay, there we go. Yeah, you were right about the parentheses. Cool. When you do closures, it is a bit tricky. So make sure you guys, if you guys have any questions or get lost, let me know so that you can get help and I'll give you some time. Is everyone good now? There's no mistakes here? Awesome. So now that we have our login and sign up functionality, now we can have the user passed into our navigation controller, which will show us the messages that we're actually talking to. So now we're going to implement some of the basic message functionality. So let's go ahead and go to our other view controller, which is the chat view controller. This is where we're going to handle all the messages that are retrieved. So the first thing we need to do, we need to create an array that will store the messages locally. So I would call it messages. And it's going to be an array of, I forgot what it was, PF object. That's what it is. From Parse. PF object is an attribute of Parse. If you go on a documentation, you can check out more stuff that they have there. But right now we're just going over the basics. So we're creating the array for the messages where we're going to store them and then use that array to display it on the table. Now that we have our array, we have to create an object that knows what a message is. And in order to do that, I'm going to create one myself. And it's going to be called letMessage equal to PF object class name message. So now it knows what type of object we're accessing. because in CodePath servers, since they already created all this stuff for us, they created the object for us, we just need to know what class it is. And the class that they created it through their tutorials, it's called message. So we're letting our app know that a chat message is going to be an object of a class message. And these messages are going to be stored in our messages variable. But now we need to figure out how do we retrieve those messages. So I already had added the functions that you guys need to fill out. So let's go ahead and do some querying. So this is the fun stuff. So now that you guys know how to send users to the database, now let's get to know how to retrieve stuff from the database. So in order to retrieve them, we're going to create a query. So I'm going to create an object called query, and it's going to be a PF query with the class name, and let's call it UCI CodePath. So what we're going to be doing here is we're creating our own group chat for this very classroom. So when you guys create this, you guys will be able to chat with each other through our own little group chat application. So this is going to be like our room, the room that we're all chatting in, UCI CodePath. So now that we have our query, we have to tell Parse how we want to retrieve them. So we want them in descending order, right? We want the most recent messages displayed on top. So in order to do that, you're going to have a method called add descending order, and we're going to retrieve those based on the created date, so that we're going to get the reverse. So we're getting the most recent messages on top rather than at the bottom. In order to do that, you're going to access the method of the. Each message has a couple things, right? It has the user who sent it, and the message, and the other attribute is the created app. So we're going to be querying all the messages based on the date that it was sent. So now that we have the order of the messages, now we're going to retrieve the limit and how many messages we want to get. In this case, we'll just do 20 so that our system doesn't crash by loading too many messages. And in query, now we want to know who sent the message. So in order to do that, we have to say query include key user. That way we know who sent us the message. And last but not least, now we need to call the query and send it to Parse and see if Parse can retrieve anything. So we're going to do query.find objects in background, and it's going to be a closure which contains messages or an error. And in this closure, we're going to say, all right, if there's messages, then we're going to make the array of messages equal messages. And then we're going to load, and what do you have to do after you get an array of something? Reload the table view. Awesome.
Your parameter in parentheses doesn't have.
Oh, it's because I misspelled it. There we go. Cool. So now, if we try to retrieve, when we run it, it's not going to return us any messages because we haven't sent anything. So let's add the functionality to send messages to our app, to the server, I mean. So go to your onSend function and let's retrieve the message first. So if message text field dot text is empty equals false. So here we're just saying if the text field is not empty, then we're going to convert that message and send that to the server. So let's go ahead and implement. We're going to create our chat message object. Chat message equal to a PF object of class name. And what are we calling it again? UCI code path. So we have our chat message object, and now we're going to add some stuff to it. So remember that the chat message object has attributes that we need to fill in. It has a user, who sent it, the message, and when it was sent. So let's add some of those attributes to it. So we're going to access the text attribute, and that is going to be equal to the message text field. Message text field dot text. Cool. And make sure to force unwrap that. And chat message, the user, is equal to the PF user dot current. So this is how we tell Parse who's the user right now. You access the PF user dot current, and this will retrieve the current user that is logged in into your app. And then we simply do now we tell Parse to save the message in the server. So we're going to call the chat message, dot save in background. And it's going to be another closure with either success or an error. And now if it was successful, then we just print message save. Else if let error equal error, then we just print the problems saving message, just to let us know what's happening. And let's print the error so that we know exactly what went wrong. And then after we send the message, if it was successful, let's add another thing. If it was successful, let's reset the text field. You do self.message text field dot text equals blank, just a blank string. That way it'll reset the text field after you click on the send button. And let's tell the user that it cannot be empty. So I'll put a if and else statement down here. Else print message cannot be empty. Cool. Alright, and the rest we'll do the logout afterwards. Right now let's test it out. Let's see if it works. So let's run it. If you guys can run it with me, and let's start texting each other, and let's see our app come to life. And you will have successfully built your first messenger, like using Parse. So let's try signing up. So everyone, I want you guys to create your own account and just put like a short name of yourself or your actual name. And I'm gonna go ahead and sign up myself. Cool. So I was able to sign up. Were you guys able to sign up? Try it. And I will send a message to you guys right now. Hello, class. Whoops. Alright, we have something that failed. Let's see what happened. May not have class UI text field. So it's probably on the onSend. Oh, it's because I gave it the label. So make sure you do the .text on your message text field. right here. It's on the onSend function. Make sure that it's the message text field dot text. I forgot to put that in. Well, let's try it again. Let's try memo again. Oh, so I already created my account, so all I have to do is just type my login instead. Awesome. So I logged in, and let me type my message. Hello, class. There you go. Message saved. So I was able to successfully send a message to you guys through the. Oh, does it work? Yes, it does. Nice. I like this. Awesome. So you guys are making some progress. Anyone else want to send a text? Yeah. All right. Yay. So now if we try to log out, you guys will see that it doesn't work. Oh, we have Lily here. Awesome. Nice. So now you guys have created your own chat messenger. But now we have to implement some of the last parts of our functionality, which is logging out and also keeping the user logged in if we go out. So for example, if I get out of my application and I close it and I go back to Chatterbox, it's going to ask me to log in again. So how do we solve that issue? For that, we're going to create user persistence into our application. But first, let's implement the logout. All right. So on the logout, we're not going to edit this function first. Instead, you have to create a function on the app delegate. So if you can go to your app delegate, we're going to create on the to-do, underneath to-do, user logs out. This is where we're going to add what's called an event listener. So what happens is event listeners are specifically for like signing out or for something that you want a notification. An event listener will be like done in the background. So for example, when you guys when WhatsApp, how the way it works is that WhatsApp has an event listener, so that the server, every time someone sends a message to someone, the server is going to say, "Oop, the event listener is going to say message received. I got to do something now. I got to send a notification to the user that got that message." So we're going to do something same here, but with the logout function. So if you go to your app delegate, we're going to modify the user logout functionality. So we're going to create our own event listener, and this is how you create it. You call it notification center dot default dot add observer. And it's going to have for name, and you're going to call it notification dot name did log out. Object nil and queue operation queue dot main. Cool. And then we close that parentheses, and it's going to have closure with a variable called notification in, and now we do all the fun stuff. Print. Let's just print out to let us know that we successfully logged out. And logout notification received. And then we just do self.logout. Oops. There you go. The self.logout is a function provided by Parse. For that, you would have to read documentation and everything, but I'm providing it to you right now. Cool. So we created our event listener, and it's checking if did logout was called. Now we just need to go back into our chat view controller and check the onLogout function. What the heck? Oh, all right. We're chilling. And for this, all you have to do is we call that event listener and we trigger it. So we do notification, notification center dot default dot post name ns notification dot name did logout. Same stuff, object is nil, and that's it. So this is how we create the event listener, and this is how you trigger that event listener. So that when you click on the logout button, it'll actually log that user out. Let's try it and see if it works. So I'm going to log in with memo. Memo is my password. And let's try. Ooh, we got some new people here. We got Keck, new phone, who dis, and then Little Star. Nice. I like that. So now let's try logging out. Successfully logged out. Cool. And it automatically returned us to the Parse chat. We didn't even have to do anything. We didn't do any return to the view controller. We didn't do any segues. You just called logout button. That's the cool thing about notification event listeners, is that it takes you back all the way from where you started. But now let's add user persistence. So what I mean by that, I probably already showed you guys, but when I log in and I close the app, I would assume that if I were on Facebook and I go back to Facebook, it keep me logged in, right? I would go and see my profile again. But if I go on my app, it asks me to log in again. I'm like, what the heck? Why? So let's create user persistence for that. We're going to go into our app delegate. And you're going to do the user persistence under this to do. Check if user logged in already. So to do that, you're going to add a couple of code to it. This is how you check if the user's already logged in previously. You do if pf user.current is not nil. So we're saying if the user that logged in previously is not nil, if there's a user, then print. I'm just going to print something to let myself know. Logged in as pf user.current. .username. There we go. This is just to let me know who's logged in into our application already. And then we're going to let our storyboard be no longer. So what do we want to do? If there's a user, then we don't want to be in the login view controller. We want to be in the home view controller where we can see the messages. So we got to tell the storyboard to tell it, hey, take me to the home view controller. I already logged in before. Don't be a douchebag. So let's go and call our storyboard to tell it that we want to go to the main view controller. And this is how you tell it. So now we have the storyboard that we want to go to. We want to go to the main view controller. Now we tell the app to force it to take us there. In order to do that, you do window.root view controller equals storyboard instantiate view controller. And you're going to do the second option, instantiate view controller with identifier. You click on it, and then it's going to be view controllers. Remember that constant file I created? Since we need a string, same thing. I created a constant to be a string. And the identifier is view controllers dot chat page. There you go. Let's run it and see what happens. Cool. You see that it didn't ask me to log in? It just went straight into the app. Does it work for you guys? And we got new people here. Oh no, it's the same guy, but he just asked. You like that? Nice. Awesome. You guys good to go? So now if I go back to and I close my application and I go back to it, it should keep me logged in. Perfect. It went straight into the chat view controller. So it does. Now we have successfully created a fully functional user interface and functionality for a chat messenger. You can even actually deploy this if you want. This is like good enough to put it up on the App Store if you guys want to do that. Lol. Thank you. Appreciate that. Ooh. Funny story. I just had a crap. What are they called? Croissants. Yesterday with hot chocolate. Dude, it was the you know how they come, the $5 ones, they come like, they give you like 12, right? I had hot chocolate with my friends. I left 2 left. There was only 2 left after I finished. I didn't even notice I was eating that much. But funny how you guys were able to, I don't know, it's just coincidence or something that you guys put a croissant and I had them yesterday. But anyhow, that's it for today. I know it was very long, but you're going to struggle a lot because right now I just went over it with you, but when you're going to create your own server and your own user objects and your own post objects, it's going to be hell. So I hope this short tutorial will teach you at least the basics of how to log in, how to create a simple post, how to retrieve the post, how to send messages to your server, which is basically all you need for your Instagram app. So that's it for today, guys. If you guys have any questions, I'll be here. And ask me anything about your other projects that you were working on or homework. Cool. Thank you, guys.
We learn how to build the server myself.
What happened?
In the tutorial, we learn how to build server.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, in the video, we learn how to build our server. I mean, like.
Oh yeah, the tutorials will show you how to do everything.
Oh, do everything?
Yeah. I just wanted to show you how Parse works. But the videos will show you how to create your own server, how to create your objects, how to do all that.
Oh,
Yeah. But the confusing thing is the Parse. That's why I wanted to show you how Parse works. Exactly.
So because I made a final configuration, the server and
yeah. So in here,
the
only difference is that when you create your own Instagram, there's going to be your application ID, your own, the one that you create.
Mm-hmm.
And same with the server. It's going to be the server that it'll give you when you create your application using Heroku.
Oh, this is Mongo or
MongoDB, yeah.
MongoDB.
Yeah. And I'll show how to do that next week too. Actually, no. I can show you right now since you're going to need that.
Yeah, I think.
For that, you're going to go to, it'll show you on the how to do it on the tutorial.
So just.
But you go to Heroku and then once you will do all of this what I'm doing right here on the tutorial. But basically what you do is you log in.
Yes, and create also.
Once you log in and create your own account and everything, then you're going to create an application. And you're going to, for example, this is mine, right? This is the Instagram that I created.
Yes.
Once you create your application, you're going to add MongoDB.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you'll be able to create your own posts and everything, and you'll be able to add your own data and stuff.
And so we source all the messaging we record where we can figure out where we can find it.
You're gonna implement that on your own. But yeah, everything will be shown on the video. And you know how I told you this is the app ID. Yeah, here's the stuff. It's on settings. It's gonna give it to you. Instagram, the key, the URL. That's the URL that you're gonna need. For this,
yes.
This is the URL. Yeah, this one right here.
Because it's a bit different than the Mongo URL.
Oh yeah, this is for the MongoDB. Yeah. And if you want for the server, this is the one for the server. They're two different, but the video will tell you which one's which, what they do, and how to implement it.
It's gonna be a long video.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long video. That's why I told you to be ready. But since you know Parse already, it'll be easy to follow the rest. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey man. For the errors, how would I
Thanks, man.
Yeah.
Oh, for the the Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh,
这个 error 是因为他后来跟你丢一个
so the fave button, fab button.
其实你明确
What's fab button?
这个 error 是因为你这要一学
Do you have any fab button here? Oh, I was just checking. This is the new controller. I want to go to the cell. Set selected. So now they're no longer assigned to anything. The function is not assigned to anything. But let's make it do something for now. To do favorite tap. And here too, retweet tap. Since we don't have any functionality yet, right? You haven't implemented it. Okay.
I mean, I ran into this error and I just tried to figure it out, but I couldn't.
Yeah, I understand. So now let's just add these. Whoops, what the heck?
I think you pressed one.
Yeah, I did. There it is. I'll just do it through here. This is the favorite, and there's a retweet. There you go. Okay. Oh, this is a UI label. Okay, I see what I did wrong. I deleted all of them. I deleted the function.
Okay.
I just kept the outlet instead. Yeah, but I forgot that you need the outlet and the function too. Yeah. So now if we go here, let me check the outlets. Yeah, that should be fine. I should have two. Oh, wait a minute, no. Because you have this is the outlet, and this is the action. Let me take out this one. Oh, I deleted it. Okay, no, it's still there. And the favorite button. So,
Okay, because the little thing that was filled isn't in
fave button. The what?
You know how these are filled because they're connected?
Yeah.
Now the one you just deleted is not.
Which one was it? Yeah, like this one's not connected, but because I'm trying to find it, but it doesn't show me. I wish you could just click on it and tell you where it is. But this is for the retweet. So there's the outlet. We have the outlet here, and then we have a function which is tweet cell. Tweet cell retweet button. Oh, it's not here. Oh, I deleted the wrong one. It should be this one. Retweet. There you go, retweet. And for the favorite button, it should be favorite. So not fab button. It should be favorite. There you go. Hopefully this will work this time.
So whenever I get that error, it's always because of the connections.
Yeah. If you get an error that says NS invalid argument blah blah blah, and it tells you a fab button, that means it's referencing a storyboard item. So let's try it out. Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Now we can see favorite button tab.
Oh,
Alright,
thanks,
good.
dude.
Yeah, man. If you see that error again, check your outlets. You
Yeah.
remember how, right?
Yeah, it's because on the discussion it told me something else.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Let me stop the recording real quick. Oh yeah, you can take
I'm
charge.
good. I'm going to start.